Mongolz fans, come here. We're here with the resident Asia CS expert, probably having the time of his life right now with Tyloo and LinVision actually playing well at the major. Bleh, how you doing?
Doing great. Could have asked for anything better, right? Like, honestly, didn't expect Lin to make it to the second stage, and right now they are still playing. They're still not out yet. So, a great time to be an Asian Counter-Strike fan, and I haven't had the opportunity to say that that often, honestly, apart from the Mongolz. So yeah, I'm pretty fucking happy right now.
So they're in your pick'ems, right?
My pick'em's completely fucked. Let's not talk about that.
I think anyone whose pick'ems are not fucked needs meds. Meds, report and meds. Did you actually catch any of their games, considering it's, super late for you?
Yeah, man. Like, esports hours. I didn't. Which match did I miss? I think I missed No, I think I caught all the games. I was a bit disappointed with the Tyloo Lin game. The Anubis, I think that was kind of like a little one-sided. The individuals didn't quite step up for Tyloo, but apart from that, some impressive stuff. Caught all the memes. So that was great. I think G is just fucking phenomenal. Emilia is absolutely cooked. I love him for that. I actually remember in IM Sydney, I was doing one of the, this is like a couple of years ago, right as CSGO switches to CS2, right? And I had to interview the Lin guys, and most of them were super quiet. The only guy who was like just bubbly and just completely just giving them these crazy answers was Emilia. So, kind of glad to see him find his kind of, his spotlight, so to speak.
Honestly, having more personalities around has been great. They've been actually making the broadcast pretty funny.
If only the Mongolz actually, got the memo, that'd be great. Like a single one of them, just one of them would be a little bit more entertaining. That'd be great for everyone.
I feel like Mzinho is, but we just don't get to see him much.
They're so nice. I mean, they're so funny behind the scenes. Like every time, I think it was in Astana, just having a drink, and we saw 910. It was Senzu and Mzinho sitting at a table, and they called me over. Just spent an hour chatting with them. Super funny guys, super great personalities, pretty solid English as well. And just you put a camera in their face and they just completely freeze up. And I don't know why, but hopefully someday I'm hoping they're watching these Lin guys and obviously Tyloo get all the love, and hopefully they take a page out of the book.
Honestly, that ESL skit of them reading Shakespeare is absolutely fire.
10 on 10.
It really checks out. Is Asia the second best region in CS right now?
I 100% agree with. Was it Jason that said that?
I think so.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, who's better right now? Like, sure, for South America, you might have a Furia still untested, right? Like, still a brand new team. Are they even Brazilian anymore? We don't know, right? Like, 60% doesn't really count if you ask me.
I mean, NA count wildcards, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have like Liquid, fair enough, but then we have a Mongolz, right? And then if you look at the second, third, fourth best team, apart from what Legacy have pulled off over here, which is fucking insane, right? Apart from that, like, I feel like you look at the results, you're looking at Tyloo and LinVision and what they're doing right now, and I just got to say, the top three Asian teams, I think just better than top three from any other region apart from EU. You can't name a second best team in NA or South America who can consistently beat a Tyloo or LinVision right now, so boom.
Kind of good.
We finally got there. 15 years. Finally got there.
All of those late nights were worth it.
100%. 100%.
We're going to start with Harry's classic meme slide, though, which throws Mongolz under the bus a little bit. Throws a few players under the bus, in fact.
Well, it's Hall of Fame, isn't it, really? And that's it's got to be where we start with the meme slide. It's some of my favourites from over the years. So I've tried to keep it fairly modern, because I feel like my original idea was I was just going to put loads of Astralis players in TSM jerseys, and it's just, they did win quite a lot though, didn't they? So couldn't really do that. So we've got instead, it's just, Senzu with some goats like Stown, Xerxen, just people who don't like arenas.
I guess,
although
Xerxen's been fucking great recently.
He has been great recently, but historically. This is the problem. Players improve over time. It ruins all my agendas. It's quite upsetting. But the reason we're doing this is because we all love the Mongolz, but their glass ceiling is sort of there. Like, they're getting the top fours. And we wanted to start with like the context on they're still really fucking good, right? Because all the international teams in the world, basically the only way you're going to succeed as a national team is if there's still a clear funnel to the top, right? Like, it's something we've seen in Brazil and even NA now, is that if you don't have one clear best team, you can't funnel the talent to that team, and then it all goes wrong, right? But the Mongolz, Aurora, they're the two that are actually making it work now. I've got lots of teams on this. So the logos are so small because they're all so crap and have so few ranking points. But Aurora and Mongolz, they're good. They're good, right? So we don't want to be too negative about the playoff choking and whatever, right? Because this is still a huge achievement. And I think in Mongolia itself, it's probably, they don't have the same narrative around it, at least from what Prof said when he came back from Misa, right? They don't have the same narrative around, oh, these guys just need the extra bit more. Like, they're pretty happy where they are. And I don't know if that's true, Bleh, or if Prof's just lying to us.
No, I agree. Like, I do the other podcast, Geographically Challenged, and obviously it's basically 70% Mongolz talk all the time because no one else really talk about it, right? And you can see a lot of people, even fans, are like, we're super proud of them, we're super happy with what they've achieved for the region, and they should be, absolutely, right? This is something pretty unprecedented. The only team in 24 years of Counter-Strike who's ever hit this height would be the Koreans, the South Koreans back in 1.6, the We Made Fox /Redcoat /Project KR guys. But even they, I don't think they were as consistent throughout the year as the Mongols have been able to do recently, right? So the only thing they have over the Mongols are they have won some proper S-tier events where they beat the likes of an MTW, Fnatic, and all these guys back in 2009 up to 2010. So Mongols have pretty much just shattered whatever ceiling Asian Counter-Strike had, which is great. My worry is they're all very young, right? And frustration will seep in. You start getting a little frustrated. You're like, all right, I don't know about the Senzu guy, even though he is on paper, the most mechanically gifted player you have. And I just feel like fissures can arise. We saw this TSM back in the day when they're making all these playoff runs. And of course, they made a big, they got Glaven and suddenly everything just fucking clicked into place, sure. But that's not something which is, I don't think it's easy to replicate, because you see way more other teams who you feel like they're reaching their heroic, for example, when they had Cade and all that and all those guys, and how it can completely just combust, so to speak. I don't want that to happen, because if I look at the Mongolian scene right now, there aren't any cerebral players in the region. It's kind of funny. Like, apart from the Mongols, I can maybe pick a couple of players, like you saw some Chinggis, Atox, RIP, no longer relevant, of course, and then you have like some of the guys from the Huns and whatnot, but I can't look at any of these players and be like, yep, they are a perfect replacement for any of the pieces in the Mongols, right? Mazini, for me, is the best player from Mongolia. Like, the guy is consistent as fuck, plays super hard roles, still manages to outperform almost everyone in the team. Senzu, mechanically the best player we have. Blitz, there's no other IGL available, right? No one close to him in Mongolia. And then it comes down to 9-10. Easily the best opera in Mongolia. There's no one else I would really even think about considering. And then we have Techno.
Also one of the best operas in the world at this point, too.
Actually, yeah, one of the most consistent operas. And you might make a case for Techno, but the thing is with Techno, he seems to have that intangible of just calming things down. He seems to be he's an experienced player as well. And I feel like he adds that little bit of an X factor. And yes, there are more mechanically gifted players, better than Techno 4K, but I don't think they have, just the game sense and how to approach scenarios. And I don't even know how they're going to gel into the system with maaRaa, right? And by the way, that player's like Score, who was fucking sick at some point or the other. And there's so many other new kids on the block, but I just can't think of anyone who's got a mentality to play the way the Mongols do. Because if you're watching Chinggis Warriors, you watch the Huns, you watch even Atox back when they're playing, none of them come even close to the level of CS and Mongols plays, which is so insane to me. So for my worry is, if they don't break through that glass ceiling real quickly, at least, let's say, in the next 3 months, for example, I feel like fissures could appear, and I don't want that to happen. I really don't want it to happen with my team, my baby, the one team I've been championing for quite a while, Nation CS. So that's my worry right now for Mongolz.
And I think it's, what is it? They're together, a year and 9 months or something now? It's something stupid, right? Where it's, I think it's the exact problem that you're saying, is that I even made a slide. I probably don't even want to show it now because it just embarrasses me. Of like, what could they even do? Let's get it up. It's terrible. But what could they even do? And then I'm
Which one? The last one, right? This one?
Yeah, and I'm looking through all the Mongolian players on HLTV, and I'm like, they played with him 3 years ago. They kicked him after a week. They played with him 2 years ago. Played with him 1 year ago. Score, like, we know he's like always going to be the highest rated Mongolian player that's not in the Mongols, but there's a reason he's not on the team. The Cobra Zero guy looks kind of fun and on a stat page. Then turns out I've got a few clips at was it Pro League they played? I can't remember. Somewhere they played at LAN this year, and then that's kind of it. And then I'm just like, well, can maaRaa just find someone in a cafe or something? Well, because at this point, like,
I will say this. Every every street we took in Mongolia had a cafe with about 200 people playing Counter-Strike. So he could find someone, right? I mean, they did find 910 with 2,000 hours. I still don't know if that's real or not. But they found fucking Mazzino, though. You know, he's got a family, you know, people who play CS and all of that. So it's not like it was a random find. But I'm sure there's unknown talent out there in Mongolia. It's just that I haven't seen them play yet, like in a proper team. I'm looking at, for example, even Chinggis Warriors, so avoided at 0-3, and everyone's like, oh my god, these guys are great, but are any of them really that good enough to replace anyone on the Mongolz side? I don't think so.
I think it's a role problem too, because I mean, like, I think I watched 2 or 3 of those Chinggis Warriors matches because I was actually had to write the report about them. Yeah, and Controls was pretty good. Like, I actually thought he made a lot of very good plays. He had pretty good overall game sense. He wasn't getting caught out as much as a lot of other players who, you know, take the step up to this level, but role for role, he doesn't fit into Mongolz at all in terms of the players that they would need to replace right now. Like, if you look at the likely candidates, obviously Techno's the one that you would look at just from the outside looking in without looking at the intangibles off the server or in the comms, but it just doesn't work as an entire role shift, and you would need to change a lot in the team right now to make that work.
I mean, does him leading Controls? Because on Wikipedia he is, but then everyone seems to think Coolast was. So
I think they swapped roles a little bit back and forth. I think Controls is leading right now. If I were to, this is a bit of a hot take, and, you know, take it with a pinch of salt, but I'm not enjoying watching bLitz recently. When it comes to when it comes to the playoff games, you can point fingers at at Senzu kind of shitting the bed, but he did have some pretty big playoff games in Astana, for example, right? It's not like he's consistently struggled. The thing for bLitz for me is when the going gets tough, I really feel he kind of turtles into himself, right? You know, he kind of tilts a little bit. He goes for his hero AWP buys, hero rifle buys, which sure, you have the individuals who can pull it off. But over-reliance on individuals, I feel, is a problem, and that is something which has been exposed time and time again. And I feel like just having a deeper playbook, I don't know if it's going to be working with maaRaa, or, you know, does he have to do that work? I'm not sure about that, but that's something they have to work on. But more importantly, just keeping a cooler head when, you know, things aren't going that well for you, especially in the playoff games or elimination games. I think that's something he has struggled with. And as a leader, as the IGL, he needs to be the guy stepping up to the plate. Now, do I have someone to replace him? No, I don't. Like, he's one of the hardest hitting IGLs we have. And when it comes to when the things are going great, when their game plan's working out, you know, it's going pretty smooth, he looks phenomenal, right? He's just fragging out calling everyone. But when it comes to just having to mid-game, right? Mid-game, when the score is 9-9, you're going up against a top 4, top 5 team. He just doesn't have what it takes. And I feel like that needs to evolve. I don't think there's anyone to replace him in Mongolia. Unfortunately, there's no one even close to him. But I feel like him evolving is what's going to take the Mongolz to the semis or the finals of an S-tier event. I don't think it's the individuals per se. The calling is lacking, and buying a hero AWP and him AWPing by himself when no one has any fucking money when the score is 10-8, that's not it. That's not it, bLitz.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a mentality shift for him as well, because, like, for so long he was the fragging team leader, everyone loved him, right? But then now he's like the 4th best player in the team pretty comfortably, and I think he's still, like, I almost tried to launch an agenda a few months ago of calling him the Mongolian Bleh, and he just isn't really.
He isn't.
But he does play very differently against Ecos. He has a little bit of that in him.
Everyone does. A little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Apex.
Some people jump more than others. Yeah, but this is the thing. He is pretty much playing like Apex now, because he's the fourth player in the team.
It's not calling like Apex.
Still got really good spots. But yeah, but the calls are sometimes not there. And I think, you know, he's still the one trading Mzinho, right? If they're going into a site, he's always the one trading because he's still used to being the fragging him leader. And I just wonder if maybe it's just in terms of the glass ceiling thing, is that, like you're saying, Mzinho on an eye test, it's kind of like staring Astralis a little bit, where people from the outsider was like, oh, he's like impressed me the most in the last few months. But then what is the actual case for Mzinho to have more of a star role and not have to bonsai entry as much sometimes? But yeah, I don't know.
I feel it's more about, like, Mzinho, if you do, like I said, if you put him in a star position, like, you know, kind of replace some of the Senzu roles or whatever, I feel he's going to do as good, if not even better, right? But it's more about, I don't trust the other players to play his role. Because if I go back like a year and a half ago when they just swapped over to the Mongolz brand, and that's when Nohte and Mazina just come into the team and everyone was just calling for their heads. I was calling for their heads. I'm like, who the hell are these two kids, right? Nohte was missing a lot of shots. Mazina was this extremity lure. I remember him playing Ancient on A and just getting abused time and time again by so many of these teams. And I'm like...
super inconsistent back then too.
Yes, and I could see how he was struggling quite a bit. And then when you could see the ascent middle of last year, like towards the Yalla events and all of that, you could see it was Nohte and Mazina getting more comfortable, right? And Mazina really, he's won me over completely. And playing these very uncomfortable positions, playing roles where he needs to have maturity way ahead of his, way beyond his years, which he didn't have at the point in time, right? So I'm sure he can swap over. It's just that I don't think Senzu is gonna do what Mazina can do. Ironically,
no, I don't. I more mean because I think positions, I 100% agree. I'd keep Emilia as like the star anchor. Like we've seen that with Rops and people like that. I think that's completely fine. It suits his aim. Like if you're a 70% headshot guy, star anchor is probably the best place for you to be. I more mean like less roles and more maybe like resources sometimes, especially on T side. I more mean so if they're doing the site execute, does bLitz always have to be the one throwing all the utility all the time? Because you know, like that's seen as a supportive thing for some people, but to me, it just says that you want to be alive in the clutch, and that's why you're doing all the utility. Like, I don't really believe that a pro player couldn't just throw that utility. And I know Techno does a lot of it too, but I more just mean because I guess it's the weird thing with someone with such good aim, you want them in first, you want a good player in first as well. But I just think Emilia could maybe elevate his rating quite a lot if he just didn't have to do quite as much classic wing play, bomb slay entering later on.
I see what you mean. Like, at the same time, if you're winning the games, it doesn't really matter though. But I see where you're coming from, because some of the best clutches we've seen from this team would be from Techno, actually. You know, he's had some crazy clutches by himself, and Mazina as well. I remember so many, 1v2, 1v3s, just such good spatial awareness of what's happening in these late rounds as well. So I see where you're coming from, but also at the same time, right? You have
like 9-10 as well, though.
9-10 as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, basically everyone on this fucking team, right? But I get where you're coming from. But yeah, I guess it just depends on what maaRaa is calling, right? Because I really feel he is the guy. He is the Mongolian whisperer. We never hear from him. You always ask questions to these guys, but we don't really know what maaRaa has really sorted out. And I don't know, is he good enough to entry? Because a lot of the times, man, like even though he's got great aim, you see them winning rounds predicated purely off fucking, Senzu Mazina running in and just popping 3 headshots in the span of like 2 seconds. And then so many of the rounds are based off that. Can bLitz do the same? I'm not really sure, honestly. I know he's really, really good, but why change something that's working out wonderfully for you? I don't think.
But I'd almost argue you're not doing that to the Falcons. You're not doing that to the maaRaas. You're not doing that to
and that's a mentality thing.
Consistently.
Exactly, and that's the crux of my argument. Like, I don't have any qualms, any problems with what they're doing. Just overall from a macro standpoint. It's just about when it comes to the big games, the mentality just completely disappears. There's Mongolz DO plays. There's a couple of rounds against Vitality where they had bomb side and just so trepidant to go in. I'm like, guys, like this is the complete opposite of what you do. And this is something where one of the Mongolz guys, I think he was one of the social media guys who could speak English pretty well. This is in Copenhagen Major, and he was like, they just have too much respect for those guys. Your Simples, your Carrigans, your Apex, your Zyrus. And he's like, they've been playing a lot of FPL, this is like a year and a half ago, right? They've been playing a lot of FPL, which, they got them used to playing against these guys and realizing they're humans as well. But I feel like when it comes to these big games in big arenas, I feel bLitz just disappears. Not individually, but just like calling wise, he just seems to, you can see in a camera as well, just like, he keeps doing this. I'm like, bro, you got to lead from the front at this point, right? You're no longer a group stage team. You're making it to playoffs. You're going to rely on maaRaa just calling all the time. You need to start taking the lead on that. But I feel that's also just a personality, right? He's a chess player. They say like that's how Techno and bLitz both, they're the quietest 2 players in the team, and it's just that chess player mentality where they don't show too much of emotions. But I feel like that's to the detriment. This is a different game. It's not chess. It's chess with shooty.
On your own.
He's going into his mind palace mid-round.
Listen, Sherlock is a fucking horrible show, all right? I will not have you bring that up.
I was going to say, though, to your point, I think one thing that does tend to happen, at least in the games that I've caught, is in these games that you're talking about where they start losing, they're up 12-6 or 12-9, whatever, and then they just end up losing an OT or whatever. It does really seem like bLitz is figured out in those kind of rounds. Like you watch them play and they run those, attempts where they get MZ Neo and Senzu out mid, or they try and get like an early pick. And then after that, they go in, like bLitz is lurking somewhere. He's like playing super late into the round, and teams are just paused. Like every team just pauses and they just wait. And they just wait for bLitz to make this like play at 45 seconds, kill him, and then like the other 2 or 3 people are just running to a site that's stacked already. And it happens so consistently.
And this is something that I think maaRaa mentioned in an interview when I was talking to him, and he was like, when they play against the Mongolz, back when they had the rivalry going, even now if you really think about it, it'd be like a noob, for example, on the T side, they just pause. And they're like, yep, no, they're going to do something right now. And boom, boom, they get a couple of kills, 5v3, rounds done, right? And it's still happening right now. I feel like just from a broader perspective, if you're playing against them, when the game's kind of shifting away from them, what the reactions are. That's very obvious. You're gonna expect like a hero AK or a hero AWPing coming out, for example. In the moment where the gun is, you know for a fact the other side's empty. I've seen so many teams just abuse that, right? They just slow it down. They figure out, just poke a little bit, figure out what's happening, and they're able to just beat them. And it's only just the individual prowess of the Mongolz that wins them these rounds. The fucking Deagle just popping off some crazy individual plays, pushing through smokes. And yes, that'll win you a few rounds, but it's not going to win you championships. And they just don't get that. And for me, that's a problem. I'm not happy with them just being a group stage merchant. I'm sure they might be okay with that. Some other fans might be okay with that. I'm not. Like, you're the best product from Asia in over a decade. You have what it takes. You need to be going for these championships. And now we can probably have a conversation about the support staff. They supposedly don't want a support staff.
Mm-hmm.
They supposedly had a psychologist, and they're like, yeah, we don't need that. I think you do. I really think you do, buddy.
What's your kind of take on, because we did that long interview of Lars Robel recently, right? And I think from the outside, a lot of people, you either see sports psychology as like an immediate fix, or like you kind of think it's wishy-washy, utter woke nonsense, that type of thing, right? And I think it's where you kind of stand on it, because for these teams, it's like a lot of teams did improve after sports psychology. But I think for the Astralis one, maybe it's a bit overplayed sometimes. Like, how much do you think it could actually alter their mindset? Because I feel like if you're a 20-year-old kid who's just good at shooting people in a game, obviously, it's quite difficult to get into that mindset and actually change it.
Mm-hmm. I feel that depends on, firstly, just the psychologist going to get, right? You're just going to try. It's like going to therapy, man. You're just going to go to your first therapist and be like, all right, this shit sucks. I'm done with this. Like, you got to try a little bit. I feel they should have tried at least a couple more. Again, I'm sure Mongolia, even with a small population, they have at least a couple of sports psychologists out there, right? I don't think it's complete woke nonsense. I think there's absolutely a reason why so many teams have been thanking their support staff as sports psychologists. Look at Navi, for example, and what a great job that she's done as well. Even Spirit as well. I think for these young guys, you can't deny it. Like, when you're going to be playing in a high pressure situation, you are going to be feeling the nerves. You are going to get nervous, and even over time, once you start adapting to it, you get used to it, right? You don't get as nervous. Your hands don't shake as much as it used to, let's say, a few months ago. But it's not enough, right? You got to learn from these experiences. You got to get into the mind space. And that's something I've competed when I was a kid a little bit here and there in sports. And even though I didn't have a sports psychologist, we had coaches who tell us, like, this is how we got to address that issue. And I don't think maaRaa, unfortunately, is equipped to deal with that. He's great at scouting. He's great at, coming up with strats and everything, but I don't feel like bLitz or he has that, the way to address the nerves on the stage, because you can see that happen. For example, Senzu, he's on the A big box, right next to Brokey on Ancient, and then the bomb's getting planted, and he just swings out, gets the guy who's planting the bomb. There's like 4 or 5 seconds remaining. He just needs to stay alive. He swings out, taking the fight, even though if he just stayed there, he would have won the round, and he knew he would have won the round. It's just that the reflex to go for plays we really don't have to go for, just in this rush to get the win. And that is something you'll see as a trend in all the rounds we've seen from Mongolz in, all the playoff games and whatnot. I really feel, even if it's not a sports psychologist, just a performance coach, for example, would really, really help them. I mean, the evidence is there. There's more evidence for than against, even in Counter-Strike itself, right? So I just don't get why they don't want to go for it.
Do you know if there's like a cultural, not taboo, I guess, but just is there like a anything culturally that would be like, oh, we don't need this, it's not really a thing in Mongolia?
I don't know about Mongolia, but I can talk about Asian CS in general, right? Because obviously there's a big language barrier with Mongolians. But in Asian CS, remember, a coach was just, this years ago, but a coach was just like, yeah, we don't need a coach. You don't need a coach. We're just good enough. We 5 people to play CS. And coaches were looked at with this, just an unnecessary addition to a team. Right now, I don't know if that is necessarily the case with the Mongolz, but I do know for a fact that they had a coach once. I mean, the performance coach once, and they're like, yeah, no, this ain't working out, and they just quit it very, very quickly, if I'm not mistaken. And the thing is, they still found success, right? So I guess in their heads, they're like, yeah, we're right all along, but I still feel that is the biggest problem with the Mongolz right now, the mentality. And even if it's not for the other 4 players, if bLitz as leader is able to, just be a little bit more calmer, a little bit more, of a Buddha sort of like, vibe to the team in these 10-10 scenarios, I think the team would themselves actually perform better. But bZeNO still delivers, by the way, on stage. 910 does as well. Techno, despite his low stats, you can see him have so many important, like high impact plays from him. It just Senzu and ironically bLitz, the oldest player in the team, who are kind of struggling a little bit.
But I think Spirit's really the example, like in a good way and a bad way, because I think like Mongolz, they lack like emotional leaders on the server. Often. Yes. Like mid-round, they lack emotional leaders. Even Hallie is like sort of an emotional leader, but their real emotional leader is their like psychologist, performance coach guy. Like he's the massive guy who just shouts at them in team talks. It's great. Like just standing next to them is fantastic. And I think that does work to a point. Like you can see where their mentality is better than the Mongolz, but also every time they lose these games, they always say, oh, it's just our mentality. Like it's Magic's like go-to post-game interview. They've lost. Oh, I think we just like struggle mentally sometimes, because the performance coach will get you to a certain point. And I know Spirit won a major, but I think it's a different scenario, different players, whatever. But I think outside the server, it gets you to a certain point, and then inside the server, you still need those emotional leaders. And I just don't see where Mongolz can get one, because I think you're right. I don't think bLitz and Techno are really emotional leaders, and I don't think maaRaa is either. Like it almost seems like, I don't know, like literally. It's like, oh, good job, guys. It's like, how important do you think maaRaa is in the server? Because what if they just had like a cheerleader coach who could do some of that emotional leadership, try and just hype them up at the moment? Because then my issue would be that I think bLitz maybe isn't good enough tactically to lose maaRaa in these timeouts.
No,
because I think it's such a hard balance for them to strike. But I don't know.
I really don't know. I mean, obviously, we have no idea what's happening in the comps, so I don't think that many of us can speak Mongolian, but I do feel maaRaa, even though a lot of people, they don't carry notes like other teams, I don't think you really need to carry notes, but maybe he just has like...
Steam now, aren't they?
Was that?
Or just Shift Tab.
Did they? Oh, yeah. Well, there we go. Well, kids nowadays, right?
People haven't even have like pictures of their lineups and those. It's kind of insane. I don't know if you've seen that.
Okay, I haven't seen that. That's pretty cool, actually. well, that answers that question. They do carry the notes on Steam, right? They're very efficient, saving the world, saving the trees. I think maaRaa is absolutely necessary to have in the comms because he is the tactical coach, right? Having watched so many of the games, bLitz barely talks at all. Ever. Like, it's insane. I've literally just looked at his cam like, no, he's not even talking. Like, no, you have tack timeouts, you just like tilt, the classic bLitz tilt with his finger at his face. And it's maaRaa doing quite a bit of the talking. So I disagree. I feel like, maaRaa being there in the server is absolutely important. But maybe having someone, like you see so many teams out there, right? Like if you go to all these events, all the top 5, top 6 teams, to have a small crew with them. Uh-huh. It's the 5 players, you have the coach, and then you have, in certain cases, sports psychologists, or you have like a manager, for example. We have a couple of managers in S-tier Counter-Strike who aren't really sports psychologists, but they're just fun guys, and to make people feel comfortable. I'm looking at Eddie from FaZe. I don't know if everyone's met Eddie here. Eddie's such a fucking great guy, right? Now, even if like things are going bad. You can see like they just lost a bad map, and Karrigan's like fuming at this team, you know, when he's standing behind the arena talking, and he's like, it's all right, guys, let's fucking go. And that just adds a little bit of like, you know, life and a little bit of positivity to the team and helps their mentality quite a bit. And I can see the same for like quite a lot of other people as well. You can even look at Liquid, for example. They've got guys like that. I feel like having someone who could fill all those shoes, right? Maybe be a manager, maybe be a sports psychologist. And it's a hard role, man. Like, I just feel like it's too much of a load on just maaRaa to handle. And you've reached a stage right now as a team that you need a little bit extra resources, and you have it. Like, you know, you actually have the money. Mongolia is cheap, guys. Like, you have so much money right now, and I think you should be investing a little bit to up you to the next level. Maybe get both a sports psychologist and a manager. Fuck it, do it.
Well, that's kind of the question that Harry was mentioning at the start. Like, do they even want that? Do they have a desire to need to do that? Or are they just comfortable where they are right now?
I think they need to do it.
They need it, but are they like? Do they want to?
I don't think they want to. That's my big disagreement with them. I think they really need to do it, but I don't think they want to. That's the thing. They have this very close-knit unit, right? It's almost like a family feeling these kids have, along with maaRaa, you know, big uncle maaRaa, and, you know, all the 5 kids and older brother bLitz. And that's all fine and dandy, and that's great. It's gotten you so far, but I'm looking at the next step, and I just don't see how it's going to happen. We can't replace any players right now, right? We can't. How do you teach bLitz to be less tilted? Is with a coach, you know, is with a performance coach. How do you help the mentality of the team when it comes to breaking the glass ceiling of playoffs? It's with a mental coach. Like, that's the answer to all your problems right now. So I can't think of anything else. Then if they don't agree with it, they're just punching themselves in the dick. And some people like that, I'm sure, but still.
Also, it's just a stubbornness problem because, like, say, I don't know, because, you know, Mongolz is sort of, yeah, myself. But it is a bit of like a bedroom org, sort of, still, right? So it almost feels like they have too much power in terms of the decisions, because if you sign for like a big Western org, or even like what Aurora did to Eternal Fire, right, then there would be people higher in the structure than maaRaa and bLitz who have the power to be like, no, this is your job. Your job is to get better, and we're going to make you go to these sessions until you take them seriously. And I think maybe because it is such a homegrown project, they are kind of able to just be stubborn about things. And I don't want them to go to like some betting org or something. Like, I think it's really fun that they're just their own brand, and they love the stickers and everything like that. But I sometimes think if you did have more of a hierarchy in the back room, then you can kind of shift mentalities a bit more, because at the moment it is just, you know, 6 dudes having a great time.
I agree. But having spoken to them, they are, by the way, still a bedroom org, right? Even though they might have been a little bit more structured right now, I believe it's from the financial marketing sales side of things, right? If you go to Mongolia, if you go to Ulaanbaatar, you can literally see like 3 or 4 different mainstream ads with Mongolz players, and it's still fucking wild to me. But if you think about like the cost of living in Mongolia, it is so cheap. It is so cheap. These guys might be some of the most loaded kids in the entire country, honestly, right? Not counting some, you know, actual millionaires or whatever. So, and even for the org as well, you know, the cost of running must be super cheap. Like, everything's going fine. Why would they want to move around? So I totally get it from their perspective. But as a brand, and in order to kind of grow, I'm someone who likes to do that, right? There are a lot of people in business who want to do a little bit more. And for the Mongolz, I don't know who that person is. Now, for example, Mongolz have a pretty solid PUBG Mobile scene, by the way. And PUBG Mobile, even though, you know, it's mobile esports, all of that, is a pretty solid esports scene around the world, actually. And the Mongolia have a couple of really, really good teams. I don't know if Mongolz, you know, pick them up. I would have liked them to pick them up, for example, right? You know, just kind of expand your repertoire of titles. And I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. Or maybe they have, I don't know, but I don't think they have done it yet. And if they haven't, like, I'm like, what are you guys doing? You have such a solid org, you know, you can start building on that. And I just feel like at the moment they're coasting on what they're getting at the moment, which fair enough. But I just feel like you have the pieces. I'm sure you can find some guys can handle your marketing, your sales, yada yada yada. It's just, I guess, a lack of, I don't know, capitalism. But we all love capitalism.
Just need the businessman IGR. Like, cut techno for a businessman. And then
all right, we're done with pride. All right, it's your turn to work on the slides now, techno.
Yeah, literally. Mm.
Harry, I wanted to bring this up because you had it prep beforehand, because it's interesting. Yeah. Bleh mentioned earlier that Senzu will make those mistakes in those kind of, 5 seconds left to overpeak with the bomb going down or whatever. And it's funny because I've seen those same moments where Mzinho's playing them and it just doesn't happen. Like, he just won't make those mistakes. And you're right in the sense that he does make a lot of those kind of overplays, but it's interesting to me in the sense of I've seen those same mistakes happen in the group stage. It's not just a playoffs thing. And I know there is this whole narrative that, they're playoffs chokers. They choke in front of the arena. They don't play super well. But it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that when you play in those arenas, you're playing the better teams, and they're also punishing you for those kind of mistakes. But when I've seen them play in these group stage matches, take, for example, that Vitality game that they played in the group stage, they were up on Mirage. They could have easily won that Mirage game and beaten Vitality and ended the win streak. And they were making those same kind of mistakes. And yeah, it's Vitality, obviously, but it's not just that level of team. It's that ancient game I was talking about where bLitz was getting caught up trying to lurk out Red Room every round for when they had a lead. It's the same kind of mistakes that they're making over and over, and it's not necessarily the opponent. It just seems like it's coming down to those specific types of situations where it's maybe when the pressure's up and the game's about to end and they just think that they can, default and play into these kind of late rounds and win. But it's interesting that there has been such a focus on Senzu and this playoffs narrative. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, it's also because I think you answered it yourself, right? Like when he plays the way he does in a group stage against, lesser opposition, he is going to get away with all of these. And I feel like it's a confluence of, number one, the arena, number two, like you said, the top 4, top 5 teams where he goes up against, where he is going to get punished, right? So I feel, and on the flip side, Mongolz doesn't make these mistakes. It's about unforced errors that I had my problem with Senzu. And I've seen this in group stage as well. It's just that because of the lesser opposition, they usually just wind up winning. I feel he just needs to be a little bit more one-dimensional, right? And he can be too one-dimensional when it comes to his how he takes a lot of fights. I just feel like you need to be a little situational. Dude, I've seen Mongolz, catch timings and push out A-main smokes on Anubis, for example, so many times, but he's not going to do that every single time. He knows when to temper the aggression, when to play a little bit more from the bomb side, maybe group up with his teammates. He plays it perfect. And you look at Senzu, the number of times mid-ancient, just sticking around for so long when no one else is there, right? He's just holding the angle, my buddy. They're going to wide swing you, right? And there's going to be 2 of them probably swinging, and you might, even if you get a kill, they're going to get traded. Why you want to give away a man advantage position? Why you want to still hold mid when there's 45 seconds left on the clock, for example? And it's just these things where I don't think he looks at the round from a macro level, right? He doesn't look at it holistically. He's just very hyper-focused on what he's doing at that point. And I feel like these are things, again, these are things he can improve on, and he will improve on over time. You just can't stagnate. You just be like this forever. We saw Mongolz improve. We saw 9-10 as well. So I can see Senzu definitely, he looked better recently, even in the, I think the Liquid game in Sydney, even Astana against Aurora, for example. He looked way better. Yeah. So I'm still not going to, again, still a very young player as well, so I'm not going to be too critical of him, honestly, but it just feels like he needs to be a little bit more situational in how he goes for these plays.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things I find interesting is the big chokers, the big narratives around the chokers recently. They've all been these kind of playmaker players. I think it's, Stam, then Zertian, then Senzu. And I think it's very similar in terms of the positions they're in. And often it is just you're playing better teams, right? You're playing better teams, and who are you going to anti-strat? You're going to anti-strat the playmaker and the AWPer. And those are the 2 players who are going to kind of struggle. And AWPers can when AWPers go into their shell, they still get a 105 rating just because, they're just not dying, basically. Whereas a playmaker, if you're getting really hard anti-stratted and you're feeling a pressure and you don't get those kills in the pistol for the confidence, I think it's so easy for these guys to become characterized as these chokers because they're under so much more pressure. It's the most important role, probably. Some of the spots Senzu plays. I know bLitz has a few of them and things like that, but it is a huge issue for a young player, I think, of how do you come over that mental thing. And I think it was the slide before this that I think kind of illustrates this a little bit more. I think it was this one, because they all drop off. So Senzu gets a lot of flack basically because he's their best in groups. He's not significantly worse than the others against this top opposition. It's basically just that he's better in the group stage. So he's their best player, and then they all kind of even up as they get tougher oppositions. So like even top 10 teams, he's the best with bLitz, with 9-10. Sorry,
I think
this says it all.
I think the caveat here, just looking at the numbers, I think the one thing we need to touch upon is against the top 5 opposition, top 10, let's say top 10, top 5. While everyone else is reasonably consistent, right? 9-10's going to do his job, and the Xeno's going to be just above 1.0 rating on bLitz as well. Senzu's either a 1.2 or a 0.8. The variance is so fucking high for Senzu, and when it's in 0.8, they're getting smashed, right? And when he performs really well, that's, he's going to win. That's the problem here. Sure, the average might be like, yeah, they're all kind of not performing that great, but I promise you, like everyone else, even Tekko is 0.86, would be consistent 0.88 or whatever. But if you look at Senzu, it's literally a pendulum swinging. I look at Astana and just look at his performance on the quarterfinals day, where I think he had like 1.25 rating, almost unplayable. The next day, 0.8. 0.8. That's a 0.8, bro. That's abysmal in a playoffs game.
But Shanghai was even worse. I think it was 0.5. Like, I think this is kind of
that was one of his worst games ever.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the worst game I've seen from someone as good as Senzu is probably ever. I've never seen someone get 0.5 in a cup
final. And the thing with Shanghai is I'm willing to completely forget about that, because making the playoffs of a fucking major, first time ever, considering how young this team is, and looking at the rise they had throughout last year, I'm like, yeah, this is fair enough, right? You choked, it's okay. For me, my biggest problem is just the consistent inconsistency, game to game, day to day. And he's shown he can play very well as well. He's shown he can pop off. But I just feel like, I'll give an example, right? Just an eye test. Why you don't understand Senzu. Everyone's going to remember the Dust 2 AWP, 3K and a B bomb side, how he pops off, with the secondary AWP. The amount of times I've seen him like get knocked out of a tournament because he picks up the secondary AWP on a deciding map like Mirage on short is insane. Like he's pugging. He's just pure pugging. They're just taking shots, re-peeking again and again and again. And by the way, you're going to be going up against fucking Zywoo and fucking, I don't know, man. You have top 3, top 4 teams. Modesty, for example, at mid, you miss a shot, you're going to get punished. And he just gets too hyper aggressive. And that secondary AWP play, I like the confidence, but I don't enjoy the play. Like, this is just pug style. This is like 2017, 2016 simple style. And I'm sorry, you're not simple, right? No one's simple.
Do you think it's from confidence, or do you think it's like early Nico type secondary AWPing, where it's actually that he's losing confidence in his rifle fights and his ability to take the right duels, that he's just like, I just want a crutch gun. I just want a one-shot
I've seen both. That's a crazy thing. I've seen them really winning well. They're dominating, picks up secondary AWP, and suddenly going to start shitting the bed. And then I've seen, like you said, right, they're really struggling. They're trailing behind. He's not really able to get the kills, and the secondary AWP comes out. So I feel like you look at some of the highlights he's had with the AWP, and you're like, holy shit, this guy's great. But as No just pointed out as well, like, I've seen them lose games, not rounds, games, just because the secondary AWP. Firstly, it hurts your economy. Secondly, bro, you're just so much better with the rifle, right? Just stick with it. It's like it's like a Nico conundrum, basically.
I've seen them up like 12-6 on Mirage. He decides to pull out a secondary AWP. They lose like 2 rounds because of it, and then they lose in overtime. It's definitely happened a lot. Yes. But like also, and I've also seen him. There was a Dust 2 game where I think most of the Mongols were saving, or they were on like half buy or something, and then they had one AWP. I don't know if it was bought or it was carried over. Guess who had that AWP? It wasn't 9-10. I'll tell you that. No, it was Senzu. It was Senzu.
You have like, arguably a top 7, top 6 AWPer in the world consistency wise. Give him the fucking AWP, guys. Like. It's almost like watching a pug sometimes, and that's the most frustrating thing. Because if you look at the way they play some of the micros, like you see some of these 3v3 situations, man, it's so clean. Like they're able to slow things down. Utility usage is great.
It makes it so much less dynamic when they have that double AWP.
Yeah, and then suddenly it's just like 9-10 is so much more dynamic, right? I love watching the way he wields AWP. He's so hard to counter as well when you're on the T side against him. But for Senzu, Mirage, he's going to be short. He's going to be short every single round, not going to mix it up. You know what he's going to be holding. He's going to be holding from either pillar, Macas, or he's going to be pushing deep B apps, like 3 positions in the entire map. That's the only place he's going to be at. At the moment, he's got the AWP, you know how to counter him. He becomes just a non-issue for opposition when you know how deadly he can be with a rifle. Now, I don't know who to blame for this. Like, is bLitz calling for this? Is he allowing this to happen? Is maaRaa okay with this? I don't know.
I think that's always been my biggest issue with double AWPs is it's not even really about if the secondary AWP is good at AWPing. It's like the strength of a CT AWPer is their ability to rotate. And if you have two AWPs on both sides of the map, then that's limiting your main AWPer because that's where good AWPers make their bread and butter. Like a lot of T rounds are basically just find the AWP challenge and then avoiding it, right? So if you know where both the AWPs are, then you can just do and execute differently. And you'd rather be executing into Senzu than you'd be executing into 910 or something. So I think it's like even when Astralis were doing it with KD, and it's like, I get it, he still wants to AWP and everything, but you could just see Device just like, Dust 2 especially, Device is just on car every round. If KD has an AWP in mid to B, like there's just no point even doing it.
I wouldn't mind it if, like, for example, Dust 2, I think it's a great example right there. Like, depending on the situation, let's say you have a massive lead, you have all the money in the world to work with, and you can just close it out. Try it once, right? Don't keep trying again and again. I've seen this happen where he loses the AWP, your money's not in a great place, and it just goes for what? Kevlar, AWP, no utility. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? And it's a hard thing to quantify what's wrong with the Mongolz, honestly, because everything we mentioned so far is small little things. These are easily fixable, right? You could just like listen to its podcast, put auto translator on it, and be like, oh yeah, that's a great point. They can fix it. It's so easy. But I feel like the biggest flaw, again, going all the way back, is just the mentality thing. And for that, I don't know. Like, time can fix it. You can grow as a player. But I watched bLitz literally, last couple of events, and when they were losing, that's the same bLitz I saw a year and a half ago when they were choking against, some of the Brazilian teams trying to make it to playoffs, for example, right? That hasn't evolved. Like, your floor needs to be higher than this. If you want to contend to be a top 4 team, be an actual elite tier team. And to do that, you got to be a bit humble. And I feel like, just like the gameplay, there's a little bit of humility lacking at times. And I feel like that could fix it, man. You got to stay humble.
Coming into this major with that, what do you think that they actually are able to do? Do you think they're going to be able to overcome that at all? Just from watching them, I feel like they have not fixed those issues, but there's been a bit of a break, I guess. I'm still very hesitant to say that
I'm worried about a break. I'm worried about a break because the last time we saw them go for a bit of a break, come back, they struggled to get back. I think it was Bucharest where they didn't make it, and they were like, they took a couple of days to wake up and eventually didn't make it to playoffs. So I'm a bit worried about it. I know they deserve the break and everything, but there are Asia's best chance to make it to playoffs again, and continue to have our spots and everything. But I still feel, and also best of one's a little scary, right? But I feel they're going to make it to playoffs. Are they going to make it to the semis? Now, that's a whole different question altogether. I think it's very dependent on the opposition. I think they have a few reps under the belt, a few decent wins, right? Beating Aurora in Astana, where they got smacked the last time they played against them. They beat Liquid reverse sweep, but 910 popping off. But these are good signs. I'm trying to look at the good signs. 910 can pop off in arenas. He doesn't give a fuck. Bazzinho, always going to deliver, right? So we have these pieces. We know they have some reliable pieces. And against any other team, if they make it clean, they can have a reasonably good seed going into the playoffs, they might go up against a lesser team, right? Like a struggling team right now. I think they can make it to the semis. But if they go up against Mouse, Vitality, even FaZe, right? And who am I missing out? Spirit, absolutely no chance. So realistically, top 8, I don't see them going above. But if they go up against, I don't know, maybe like an Aurora, for example, or maybe against a Furia for that matter, yeah, maybe there's a chance.
Do you know what I could see? And this is the type of bold prediction where people will only remember if I'm right, so it's fine. This team screams to me, Frio, beat Vitality in the 2-0 game, break the streak, and then lose in the quarterfinal to like Falcons or Spirit or something. Like somebody goes 3-2 in the group stage.
Yeah, very likely.
I can see it happening.
Yeah.
I feel like the team that's I really think the team that's going to break the Vitality streak is like a Mongolz, Aurora, maybe even Mongolz in a group stage. Like it can't go on forever. And I don't think it's going to be one of these big teams in like a playoff final. I think that's going to be too much. I think it's going to be some Swiss stage bullshit.
I think Mouse. I mean, funny you say Maz. I think Maz are pretty solid right now. Just not able to beat Vitality. That's all. Yeah, it could happen, right? Obviously, we saw what's happening in the group stage. A lot of like the ring rust thing, a lot of people don't really think it's a real thing, but it is a real thing. It's absolutely a real thing. Yeah, you don't play for a couple of weeks, come in all prep, you just all warmed up, right? Look at fucking Monacy for that matter. You usually struggle. I mean, it doesn't struggle this much when he's starting at the start of a tournament. So it absolutely could happen. And I think so. I think Vitality, the best of ones coming in, they haven't played too many best of ones, mind you. I think I agree with you. I don't know who it's going to be against, but I feel like the streak is going to come to an end in the group stage.
Yeah, I feel well. Harry, is there any slides that we didn't go over that you want to cover before we wrap?
No, I don't think any of them really.
It's kind of sad
what we said. That's for sure.
It's kind of sad to no threads on Mongolz recently.
Yeah, it was difficult. I tried looking for a couple, but yeah, it's always hard manually scrolling through 20 pages of HLTV threads and trying to spot a, Mongolz fans come here kind of type of good content thread.
Wait, don't you usually do that? Don't you guys create a thread being like, Mongolz fans come here or whatever?
No, we do that
promotion.
Once the show's live, yeah. Once the show's posted, but usually for the ones that we show on the actual show, we have to go through, and especially if a team hasn't played in a while, then it's even harder to find any threads because all the threads are about, all the teams that are playing right now.
That's probably the solution, though. We do it before and after, and then before, then that's where you get all your spicy takes.
True, but there's only so many, HLTV tier takes that you would get in a thread that we make versus some of the fan fictions and science fiction novels that which referred to the threads as.
Having scrolled through 20 pages of forum posts I'd need therapy out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm old school internet, but even that'd be like, yeah, bro, like this is like 4chan on steroids, man. Like,
exactly. That's what's on my back hosting this show. That's what I have to go through.
The pain. I will say this about the major right now, though. I think we've had some. The game's been fun and all that, but some great content coming out. The memes are back. The when I'm insert team name, those are back again. It's great. It's fucking great.
It's always fun seeing what the major brings because there's always those upsets. The best ones kind of do make it fun, but get rid of them, please.
I agree.
Please get rid of them.
I mean, like for example, Legacy beating FaZe was a best of 3. Right, so it's even better for them. It's even more rewarding for them as well. We just beat FaZe on a fucking best of 3. So, yeah, Valve, please. I don't think they are, but please, one day.
It just legitimizes the result more anyway. So,
literally every, I think, am I mistaken? Like every S tier event this year has been best of 3s. Like PGL, I know for a fact.
Yeah.
ESL, even though I fucking hate, they don't have like 4 quarterfinals, but whatever. And then you have the major celebrate the biggest event of the fucking year, and they still play best of ones, which is so egregious. I don't get it. Fuck's sake, please, Valve, someday.
One of the only S tier events that still had best of ones was like the IEM Dallases, where they used best of ones in the openers, and they got rid of that too. Like none of those have that anymore. So it really is just the majors that still do that.
I don't know. And even the MRQs had best of ones as well, which is absolute fucking bullshit.
With your coach in a Starbucks. Still upset, by the way. Still so upset.
It's so funny how like Asia,
shout out to Ash.
Shout out Ash. Asia, I still feel bad about them. Although they did shit the bed in a Starbucks completely. Did they?
I think they shit the bed at one of them and then they made playoffs at the other, right?
Yeah.
When did they shit the bed?
Was it Sydney? Am I losing my mind?
So Melbourne, they were in playoffs.
Melbourne, sorry, yeah.
I think
Astana,
one of the PGLs,
they went 0-3 in
playoffs, and then
Yeah.
they went 0-3 in the other one.
They lost to Spirit, Furia, and Hotu.
Yeah,
and then they made playoffs in Dallas
one's
with
egregious.
Yeah,
they made playoffs an event later.
Yeah, they did play well in Dallas, so yeah, they're not frauds. I like them.
No.
I'm sad and not here.
Then Bleh, do you have any words you want to wrap up with? Any shout outs to Asia CS? Anything you want to tell them?
As we were, firstly, thank you for having me. I always love talking about Asian CS. I get stressed, keep losing my hair thinking about them. But hey, if Asian CS is part of me, and also while doing this, just watched Tyloo win their game against Heroic with a comeback. So things are going great. I'm going to grab a drink. I'm going to watch the rest of the games.